Hello everybody, how's it going? I just realised that I set the stream to go live at 2 o'clock rather than 2:30. So we're here a bit early because I just realised that I started seeing some chat messages coming through, and I was like, why are there chat messages coming through very early? Just me. Yeah, we usually go live like half an hour before qualifying, but why not? We're here. It's 54 minutes until qualifying. I saw some chat messages coming through, and why not have a little pre-qualifying chat? How are we doing? Who is in the chat, by the way? I can see Sarah. I can see Sally. I can see Bean Toast GD, Swift Gamer. How's it going? Goldex, what's your prediction for Ferrari this qualifying? We could have a chat about Ferrari. In fact, Ferrari are very much involved in your guys' predictions as well. Just went through your guys' predictions and was making the graphic for that. So we can have a little look at that together in a second if you would like. The sporty guy, hello. Hello, Julia as well. I was wondering the same, but I will not be late. In fact, we're just very early. We're all very, very early indeed. But you know, early is better than being late. And I'd call early on time. I'm more than happy to start the stream an extra 20 minutes, 25 minutes early. If we fancy a little chat, why not? I was just here having a little look at the statistics as it was anyway. Like, was trying to work out what to have a little natter about before we get into qualifying. Was looking at the Isaac Hadjar rumours, was trying to work out whether Lando Norris still had any championship hopes. I was looking at the Stefano Domenicali thing as well. I just saw Tomo's video pop up, but I haven't actually watched it yet. And don't know too much about that, so I was going to have a little scroll and read through that. Was worried I'd qualify when I began the stream. It's all right. So we're all good. Qualifying doesn't start till 3 o'clock my time. Lots of you guys in very different time zones all over the place. Maybe we'll see if there's any kind of impact on the likes or views or anything like that if I go live an extra half an hour early. To be honest, I was, as I say, not doing too much apart from looking at, are the lights in the background kind of flickering on the screen? That's annoying. Might have a little look at the camera if that is the case. Let me know if those lights are kind of flickering for you. But yeah, we'll have a little look. You prefer the old Singapore Grand Prix layout or the current one? For continuity purposes, I'd love it to go back to the old one. I think the new one works, right? You don't need this kink halfway down the straight. Obviously, the reason they had this is because there's a grandstand there. It's not actually a Formula One grandstand. It's a grandstand that they use for the fireworks in Singapore that they do over the lake that is there. And therefore, that grandstand is being worked on, and that's why they've taken that kink out, because there isn't a grandstand there at the moment. Whether they'll put it back in, I'll have a look. They are, but not crazy. That'll be annoying though. Right. Don't know how. I haven't changed any of the settings on this camera. But let me see. Can I change the settings on the camera whilst doing this? Whilst we are live, without actually just destroying everything that we've worked so hard to achieve. Let me see. This might be weird for you guys. Oh. Are we still live? Are we still there? I'm going to have to unplug the teleprompter. Just always a bit of a nightmare. Then everything looks really, really bright. Really, really bright. Really, really bright. Let's have a little look. Maybe I'll just change the frame rate on the camera for a bit. Let's go 100 frames per second. Beautiful. Don't know what you guys would have just seen. Probably some cookies. There you go. They still flickering now? Less so, I think. The camera was fine. Oh dear. Why is quality postponed? It's not postponed, is it? I really hope not. Otherwise, I've gone live super early and then qualifying is later than it should be anyway. Let's put the... Oh, I can't get the teleprompter back on. This is some real behind the scenes for you guys that are here. Let's do that. Seem about right, maybe. There we go. Definitely flickering yet less. And to be honest, I'm not going to do it all over again. Because that was scary. There we go. That'll do. How long left? 49 minutes until qualifying goes live. So a good chunk of time. Don't you worry yourself. Now I've got to find my stream again so I can actually watch the race. There we go. Is that now? I'm worried it's out of focus. We'll do that. What did you see? Did you get to see my desk? I feel like it's an absolute mess at the minute. Oh well. It's not postponed yet, we're just live super, super early. Right, should we delve into a few things? First and foremost, let's get this loaded up. This is what I do before the streams, by the way. just load things up and make sure that they fit in places. Monza. Look at the beautiful, beautiful Monza track. That'll do. Cool Lego set. Thank you very much. Craven over on the Twitch as well. Hello, hello. Right. I'll get this loaded up. Then I have actually got quite a few interesting things to talk to you guys about. And a couple of things that you may or may not have seen that I would like to discuss. There we go. And finally, race control. Get that to the right size. Bang. There we go. It's loaded. It's looking good. Hello, Josh, mate. How's it going? Say water. Water. Water? Depends how I'm feeling. Where's my McLaren shirt? I think it's in the wash, actually. Got quite a good like selection of Formula One merchandise now. This is Tomo's. Big fan of the old Tomo. One of the sort of forefathers of F1 YouTube, if you will. But support your creators, buy their merchandise, that kind of thing. I know how difficult it is to try and make something happen and work, and the fact that he's made the merchandise, I feel like I had to support him. Don't sound too jolly about those things I want to talk about. I mean, as someone who was hoping that, you know, the championship would go down to the wire, I've been doing some calculations and it's not looking particularly fun. And also, like, I'm just cursed because I released the video where I do the simulations of the championship battle. Thought I'd do it again, like I did it last year, and it went down quite well. So I was like, okay, I'll do it again for this year. Didn't manage to do it at the beginning of the season because I was moving and just didn't get the opportunity. It takes forever to do those style of videos. I did it, put in like the hours, got all the data, put it out. The main talking point is, of course, Lando Norris versus Oscar Piastri, and then literally one race after the summer break, Lando Norris, DNF. It's all gone wrong. Now that video seems like quite a big waste of time. Well, no, it's got the views, hasn't it? It's got the views for now. But first time someone responded to me on a live stream. No worries, I'm here. Hello, Kelly. How's it going? As in a creator. I feel like I try and be my best to sort of go back and forth. I have the chat right there, so I try and try and get involved as much as I can. There's loads of members on the channel, though. They get very involved. Commented on one of your posts about how the momentum was swinging towards Lando. That backfired. Yeah, that's what I mean. It did feel like it was kind of swinging towards Lando. Last few races before the summer break, it did feel like Lando was kind of building a bit of momentum from Canada sort of up until the end of the season, those 4 races. But just one race, it all goes wrong, doesn't it? One race is all you need to fall away. Oh, Craven using the... I need to discover like Twitch a little bit more. I've only just added the stream to Twitch and therefore don't really know how it works fully, if I'm brutally honest. What's my favorite track and driver? Track, Singapore. So it's an obvious one. Driver, like old school, Jenson Button was always the main man. Nowadays, I don't know if I have one particular. Just the McLaren boys constantly. I like Pierre Gasly, although I dislike Alpine, so my love for him is sort of waning because I just can't deal with Alpine. Like, just get annoying. So yeah, it's exactly like that. Me praising Hadjar as the best rookie, and then Kimi goes on to get, what was it, a sprint pole, and then I bigged him up again, and then Kimi got his first podium. Basically, if I talk about how good Isaac Hadjar is, Kimi Antonelli performs incredibly well that weekend. Yeah, that's very true, Kelly. That's very true. Everything does have very short lifespan on it. That is one of the negatives for that. Talking of content, though, shall we talk about the biggest news of the week? The biggest news of the week, the absolute momentous occasion, the biggest thing I would say that's happened to Formula One YouTube in decades, possibly. You know, since starting this channel, I think this is probably the biggest thing that has happened maybe ever. If we have a little look, let me grab this. Chrome. Where's Chrome? This one? Nope, wrong one. This one. Bang. Big announcement. Do I know the probability of Orlando winning the championship? Didn't the race do a thing and it's like 10% or 12% or something? But yeah, you don't need to spam. I'm right here. Don't worry about it. I'll get to you. All you'll do is get yourself banned. Because if you spam too much, then there's like an auto done. But big news. Ta-da! Something that I've been working on for forever. Lots and lots of you will remember, because lots and lots of you guys who are the kind of people that will turn up to a stream 45 minutes early are the kind of people that have also been part of the channel for a very long time. You'll remember last year I started a podcast called The Turning Point. And it was my take on sort of getting back into the Formula One podcast space, because for those of you that have been around since the very beginning, you will know that this channel initially started off as a podcast channel. It was nothing to do with Formula One. That's the reason that the name is not applicable. It has nothing to do with Formula One in any sense whatsoever. And it wasn't just my channel either. It was shared with other people. Hence why it's not like my name, you know. Tomo's his name. Aldas is just his name. Mr. V is just Mr. V. It's not my name because it was shared with other people. But now I'm getting back into the Formula One podcasting space. The turning point for me was a great opportunity for me to meet creators that I really enjoyed working with and getting myself an opportunity to talk to those guys and build up a relationship with them. From that, I've built up an incredibly good relationship with the likes of Mr. V, Mr. Pulse, Dan No Skill, Formula Duck, and the 5 of us had a little discussion over the summer break, and we decided, instead of, you know, Mr. V doing his podcast, me doing my podcast, Dan was thinking about starting a podcast, Mr. Pulse kind of does weekly content on his channel, and was thinking about expanding out. And we were like, how about instead of all of us doing our individual podcasts, we come together like the Avengers of Formula One YouTube. And we have decided that between us, we're going to start the Crash Happy podcast. The first episode came out on Wednesday. I want to say it would have come out a little bit earlier. And I'm still waiting for Spotify to click in because for some reason that takes forever for Spotify to be like, yeah, we believe that you are a real podcast, because you have to release a podcast episode before you can then go on Spotify. It's like a very weird and kind of backwards thing that I would say Spotify have on their hands there. But nonetheless, we released the podcast on Wednesday, had a really good reaction, like 3,000 views, almost getting to 1,000 subscribers. And for you guys, in case you missed it, like this is such a huge opportunity, and something that I'm really, really excited about. So if you want to, and you feel up for it, head over to Crash Happy. There's a link down in the description below. Hit the subscribe button, watch the first episode, see what you think. The first episode is me, Mr. V, and Mr. Pulse. Basically, Dan No Skill, Formula Duck. Dan is in Italy, so he's away. Formula Duck was also on holiday, but it's going to be a rotating cast. It's not going to be all 5 of us every single week. It's going to be more of a, okay, 3 of us are available, 2 of us are available, 4 of us are available, and it allows us to keep the content coming. And there's a lot of content coming whilst not having what I felt like was a bit of a trap. Like I felt like I had to do a podcast every single week, and I felt like I had to come up with something that I've done or something that we've seen, but it is well worth just kind of giving it a watch. And I know some of you won't have seen it because it was on the community tab, and YouTube does its thing, right? Where sometimes it just does not give you the content that you're expecting. But we're aiming for obviously 1,000 subscribers. Then we can monetize the channel. You know, I'll be brutally honest with you. That's the kind of first tick that we need to get across. Need to see if we can get to 1,000 subscribers, see if there's sort of real interests in this podcast. What about Apple Podcasts? The same, takes like ages. I'm going to do it after we finished qualifying today. Going to go back onto the podcast network. It's really weird, like Apple Podcasts, Spotify, those kind of things. You know, if you think about YouTube, you make the YouTube channel before you post your first video. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the other way around. You have to post a podcast and then you are allowed to make the Spotify channel, the Apple Podcast channel, things like that. It's kind of a bit backwards in my opinion, but I suppose it is what it is. But to summarize this, because I've been going on about it for like 5 minutes now, Crash Happy, really, really happy to be involved in it. It's kind of like my baby in one sense, because it's something that I've always wanted to do, and I've kind of attempted to do a couple of times over the course of my time on YouTube. You might even remember I was also on another podcast that was about Formula One, which was a mixture of creators, but it just kind of slowly started to fall apart, unfortunately. So something that I've always wanted to do. I'd really appreciate it if you could go over there, hit the like button on the video, subscribe to it, give it the watch as well. Like, even if you're just subscribed, that's great, but YouTube is all about watch time. So watch time is king, unfortunately. So if we want to get this out there, we need people who are dedicated and will watch it like every single week. So if it's something that you can commit to, something that you want, even if I'm not on it, you know, if you're a fan of Dan No Skill, if you're a fan of Formula Duck, if you're a fan of Mr. V, if you're a fan of Mr. Pulse, they'll be on it as well. Rotating cast. I'll leave it there. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk about the Crash Happy podcast. But I'm so excited for it. Like, I could genuinely just keep talking about it all day. It's taken a little while to kind of get the ball rolling. And, you know, because there's 5 of us involved, it takes a little while for those things to click and people to get back to you and how it all goes. But we're there now. It's sort of soft launched because only 3 of us are available. We wanted to get something out there after the Netherlands Grand Prix. So we're like, let's try and keep the momentum of the second half of the season. But there'll be like a big sort of announcement. Hopefully all 5 of us in a video at some point. Like, I don't think Dan's put anything on his channel yet. I don't know if Formula Duck's put anything on his channel yet. I'd imagine he might have, because he's back from holiday now. But I put something out there. If we can get it to 1,000 subscribers, that'd be absolutely insane. Shall I have a look at how many it's on now? It's the main channel I've been checking over the weekend. We're at 937. 937. So we need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, which is the thing, right? 4,000 watch hours is the hurdle to get over. So if you're willing to watch it, it's an hour podcast. So if I can just get 4,000 people to watch the whole thing, we're there. But I'm expecting it's maybe going to take a few weeks to get to that point, but we'll have to wait and see. Shall we talk about this weekend, though, and what's going down? This is the current state of the Drivers' Championship. Oops. Giving it away a little bit, though. Forza Ferrari. Red Bull with new engines today. I think it's one of those tracks, and I was kind of thinking this with the fact that Lando Norris did take, obviously, the problem. I was going to say take. He had that problem with his engine. Maybe it makes sense to change the engine this time around, take the grid penalty. I don't know. It's so tough. Lando Norris in a very, very tough position. Shall we talk about that? Shall we talk about Lando Norris and where he is in the championship? Because Lando Norris in a bit of a tricky position now. I know it was going to be a tricky second half of the season anyway, but after a DNF, now on 275 points to Oscar Piastri's 309 points, is starting to feel like everything that could have gone wrong in that first race really did go wrong for Lando Norris, and where he needed to carry on that momentum from the first half of the season, he unfortunately hasn't been able to. Like, if you look at his championship hopes, the last big setback was Canada. But actually, if you look at the period of time between Canada and coming back in the second half of the season or going into the summer break, after Canada, I think he was 22 points behind. Let me grab this. Yeah, so after Canada, if we look at it right now, Lando Norris was 22 points behind Oscar Piastri. Oscar was on 198, 176 going after the Canadian Grand Prix. But that 22-point gap, if you look at then the 4 races after the summer break, you know, we managed to get Austria, Great Britain, we had Belgium, then Hungary as well. Lando Norris then only 9 points adrift of Oscar Piastri. So managed a 13-point swing in just those 4 rounds post-Canada, right? So 13 points in 4 rounds. Okay, the gap is now 34 points once again with 9 races to go, but there are still 249 points up for grabs in the final 9 races of the season. So I don't feel like the championship is fully, completely and utterly done. It's just gonna be very tricky indeed. You know, you take that 9 races to go, 34-point swing. So that's a 4 points per weekend that Lando Norris needs to beat Oscar Piastri by. So every single weekend, as long as Lando Norris is 4 points to the good, he should win the title. It's not like it's completely out of his hands at this point. The other side of the coin is that only one driver has come back from a worse position at this stage of the season, and that was Sebastian Vettel in 2012. The problem then on that side of the things is 2012 was such a ridiculous season. We had so many drivers that were in the championship battle, and it was so competitive throughout the entire field that Sebastian Vettel was able to chunk out those points from the drivers in front of him because it swapped as to who was the most dominant driver weekend to weekend. At this point in the season, it does feel like we're just going to have a 2-horse race with the 2 McLaren drivers going down to the end of the season. Like, it really doesn't feel like Leclerc or Verstappen or Russell are gonna win any races. If they manage to win one, it would be probably a bit of a shock, right? But I'm expecting it to be pretty much McLaren 1-2 every single race from Monza until the end of the season. If that's the case, then looking at it from Lando Norris's perspective, again, it's not out of his hands by any stretch of the imagination. He just needs to win 7 of the last 9 Grand Prix. Again, it's really not an easy one to sort of handle, but if Lando Norris can win 7 of the last 9 Grand Prix, that again will be that 35-point swing that he needs, because he will gain 7 points per victory in his favor, because I'm assuming 25 points to Lando Norris and 18 points to Oscar Piastri basically every single weekend. Of course, that doesn't take into account sprint races as well. Sprint races, if Oscar Piastri manages to fall outside of the point scoring places, or, Lando Norris gains an additional 3 points from winning every single sprint race where Oscar Piastri is second, then those 3 points could also come into his favor as well later on down the line, especially if, as I say, I don't feel like there will be, but there could be an opportunity for maybe George Russell to win in somewhere like Vegas, maybe Max Verstappen to win in somewhere like Texas. He does really well there, or Brazil, if there's a little bit of chaos. And, we saw Max Verstappen in the chaos in Brazil when its wet weather conditions absolutely come to life last year. There's no reason that can't happen again this year. But at this point in time, looking at the fact that Lando Norris is that 34 points adrift now, is slowly sort of drifting away from Oscar Piastri in terms, or has been, it's one of the, how do I put this? It's sort of, even though Lando Norris was gaining points in those 4 races between Canada and the summer break, it didn't feel like every single one of those was because Lando Norris was actually the quicker of the 2 McLaren drivers. It felt like sometimes things did go in his favor a little bit better. Like, as I just mentioned, Norris can win at least 7 of the last 9 remaining Grand Prix races, but Oscar Piastri this season is 7-5 up on victories so far. And, realistically, that could even be 9-3 in terms of those race victories, because it's been a couple of times where it's just been the fact that Lando Norris ended up on the better strategy, which should have been the worst strategy, but is now going up there. According to what I see, you have more than 3,000 subs on the podcast now. That cannot be true. Let me double check. Unless something ridiculous happened. Oh, 3,000 views, not 3,000 subs. Yeah. I got you. Yeah, the first podcast episode did really well. Did very well indeed. We've just got to tick a few boxes on YouTube side of things. Or, from the other side of things, there is still that unpredictability. There's still that uncertainty around what's going to happen in these last 9 races. I'm talking as if it's absolutely guaranteed that the 2 McLaren drivers are always going to be the top 2. Lando Norris had that little bit of unpredictability thrown into his season, right? He had that engine failure when he was running in second place, but that could also happen to the other side of the garage. There's poor reliability. There's the possibility of unpredictable weather. There's a possibility of Oscar Piastri making a mistake. I know that he hasn't really made any particular mistakes this season other than during his home Grand Prix, the first race of the season, where he spun off and should have finished that race at least on the podium, ended up finishing in 9th place. Since then, he's been pretty flawless. There's no sort of way of telling if he's going to be absolutely flawless throughout the rest of the season as well. So I just feel like we're throwing Lando Norris under the bus a little bit here. We're saying that Lando Norris absolutely cannot go on to win this Formula One title, and it's in the pocket of Oscar Piastri already. I don't think that's the case. Of course, from Oscar Piastri's point of view, he will be thinking, okay, I've got this 34-point lead. Lando Norris needs a 5-race swing. So as I say, he needs to win 7 races to my 2. So as long as Oscar Piastri can actually just get 3 more wins under his belt, then Lando Norris, the pressure is on for him to do something a little bit different. He can't just win every single Grand Prix from that point if Oscar Piastri can get 3 more wins under his belt. And from Oscar's sort of side of things, he will also see the fact that Lando Norris has taken that engine failure and will therefore likely have to take another engine at some point, meaning he will take a penalty for taking that additional engine, as you're only allowed so many engines throughout the season. And therefore, Oscar Piastri, with this lead, can just be a little bit more cautious. He can be more picky. He can be very specific as to which race he decides to take his engine penalty, if he does decide to take an engine penalty, where Lando Norris does. Well, Lando Norris kind of has to, and Oscar Piastri maybe doesn't have to take that engine penalty if he doesn't want to. But it does feel like we need a mistake from Oscar Piastri, because Oscar just needs to hold on, get those second place finishes, and almost hope that Lando Norris doesn't get a first place in every single Grand Prix. Like, the best thing for Oscar Piastri right now would be the Ferraris to win in Monza or Mercedes to win in Vegas. Because even though, yes, Oscar isn't picking up those points for the wins, and of course, Oscar Piastri would want to get as many victories under his belt as possible whilst he's in the most dominant car on the grid. At the same time, if Mercedes do win the Vegas Grand Prix, or Ferrari do win in Monza, or Max does win in Brazil, that's another win taken away from Lando Norris. And it's another big chunk of points taken away from Lando Norris as well. Oscar Piastri, if Lando Norris is finishing in second and Piastri's finishing in third, rather than losing 7 points, which would be the gap between first and second, he's only losing 3 points. And a 3-point swing is not good enough, right? He needs to have big point swings every single weekend. As I just said, he needs to average an extra 4 points. He needs to outscore Oscar Piastri by 4 points every single weekend. It's going to be really tough for Lando Norris, but I just don't think we can say it's done and dusted. I don't think that we can say they're both out of the race. Thoughts on both McLarens taking a new engine this weekend? Makes perfect sense in Monza. Such a engine heavy track is Monza, that it makes sense for both of the McLarens to decide to take those engine penalties now, rather than deciding to put those new engines in now, not even taking penalties for them because they haven't got quite through all of this. But I don't know, I just feel a little bit bad for Lando Norris, bless him. I think Lando Norris did such a good job. I think he, knew he'd made that mistake in Canada. That was a real turning point for him in the season. We then went to a place like the Netherlands. He was 12 thousandths of a second off Oscar Piastri in qualifying. He didn't deserve to sort of lose those 18 points, which felt like they were absolutely in the bag in the Netherlands Grand Prix. And therefore, it's kind of made the rest of the season just that little bit easier for Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri now has more tactics available to him, like we saw with Max Verstappen last year. When you're leading by a chunk of points, I don't know if we'll see Oscar Piastri do quite the same level as dark arts that we saw from Max Verstappen, where he is, shuffling Lando Norris off of the track by and letting other cars pass just to sort of make sure that those points fall away from Lando Norris. But he can certainly be a little bit more aggressive, can Oscar Piastri, than Lando Norris can afford to be, right? If Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri collide, it's kind of a win for Oscar Piastri at this point, because that's another weekend's worth of points taken away from that pool of 249. And the less and less races there are to go, if this points gap stays at 34, well, then Oscar would win the championship before we even get to Abu Dhabi. On the flip side of that, from Lando Norris's perspective, as long as it's within 25, anything can happen in Abu Dhabi. You know, we've seen championships won in Abu Dhabi. 2012 Sebastian Vettel, the one that I mentioned before, being probably the most dramatic one, where Vettel didn't lead the championship at all throughout that season and then went on to win the championship. I know Lando Norris has led the championship towards the beginning of the year, and then it changed hands 3-4 Grand Prix into it. But again, Lando Norris may not take the lead of the championship at all from now until the end of the season. But if on that final lap in Abu Dhabi, he's gets that position that he needs, you know, maybe it goes into Abu Dhabi and he's 24 points behind Oscar Piastri. He's sitting in second place, but then Oscar Piastri has the engine failure. He is in it until it is done. And especially when the McLaren car is so good, when there's no real challengers outside of the McLaren team for victories in Grand Prix, as I say, outside of the very niche cases where it's a one-off Grand Prix weekend for Red Bull or Mercedes or Ferrari, where they do turn up and the track really suits their car style, I just think Lando Norris, can't count him out yet. A lot of people are. You can't count him out yet. He will be right there in Abu Dhabi, in my opinion, and just maybe needs a little bit of luck in his favor as well. Like, it would be really, really nice just for it to go all the way down to the wire, right? In my opinion, and it would be very, very fun to actually see a championship battle go all the way down to Abu Dhabi. Ooh, a certain race director comes back. Maybe not that, but certainly goes all the way down to the wire would be really, really good. Next year is our year, just watch. Shall we talk about predictions, actually? Because I got you guys to do your predictions, and they were interesting when it came to the Monza Grand Prix weekend. I was expecting like a little bit of a turning point. We had the predictions in the Netherlands where you guys predicted Lando Norris to win. You predicted Max Verstappen to be on the podium. You know, there was a few definites, I would say, that we kind of clicked in. I love your videos, so informational. Thank you so much. But the predictions then just really went out of, like, because of the safety cars, because of the virtual safety cars, and because of the chaos that the two Ferrari cars really caused. Well, and Kimi Antonelli really can be blamed more so for the Charles Leclerc incident. But I think the predictions last weekend were just, you know, thrown out the window as soon as the chaos ensued. Predictions this weekend? What do you think? Are we going to be in Ferrari's favor? Are we going to be against Ferrari? Shall we have a little look? So when it comes to these predictions, if you haven't seen them before, over on the community tab at the beginning of every single week, there is a list of predictions for you to fill out. So you get to pick who you think is going to win the Grand Prix, the two drivers you think are going to be on the podium next to them, your best positive surprise of the weekend. So someone who maybe is a little bit of an outside shout to do incredibly well, the best team for that weekend. That can be whether you think both drivers are going to get into the points, or the best team overall in terms of just points scored for the weekend. And then, of course, a couple of negatives in there for all the good. There has to be some bad. Which driver you think is going to struggle the most, and which team you think is going to have the most difficult Grand Prix weekend. So here were your predictions for the Monza Grand Prix. Your winner, you went for Oscar Piastri. Piastri was right there. It was very, very close, actually. There was a lot of maybe Tifosi fans getting involved this week because they knew that the Ferrari drivers were going to be in and amongst it. A little bit more pressure on the Ferrari team. And of course, Ferrari always bring their kind of Monza package, don't they, every single year. We saw Charles Leclerc come out of nowhere to win it last year by doing a crazy strategy. But Charles Leclerc just lost out to Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris. There is still the momentum for the McLaren drivers there, and I think most people expecting a McLaren 1-2. Interesting that, you know, last time around in the Netherlands, most people went for Lando Norris to get the victory there. It's kind of flicked over to Oscar Piastri. To be fair, Oscar Piastri was very, very quick here last year in Monza. It was one of his standout tracks, and we remember the incident that sort of spiraled into the papaya rules being discussed quite a lot last year from Oscar Piastri, going into those first few corners side by side with Lando, which kind of opened the door for Charles Leclerc to take that victory. It's those three up in the podium places once again. I will say it was very, very close between Leclerc and Verstappen. I think most people still think that Verstappen is going to be able to just drag a performance outside of that Red Bull car, because the Red Bull car shouldn't really be amazing around here. And in fact, if I was doing my predictions and I kind of put my votes in there, I slightly favoured on the side of Mercedes going into this Monza weekend, if I'm honest with you. And the Mercedes car we saw in Canada, it likes really long straights, big braking zones, and then, you know, sort of low speed / heavy corners, as we see in Canada. Like, Canada is effectively straight, chicane, and straight again. Like, that is Canada with the hairpin towards the end of the track. If you look at the Monza track, it's not too dissimilar. Like, it is big, long, straight, chicane. Okay, then the curve around, but it's basically flat out until chicane. Then we have the couple of Lesmo corners before a big straight chicane. Like, we saw the Mercedes cars go incredibly well in Canada, and I'm surprised that you guys didn't have more of a Mercedes vote in this, to be honest with you. Maybe it's just because you don't think they've quite got the straight line speed advantage that they will need to, or the fact that, you know, the Mercedes cars have been pretty tricky to drive over the course of the weekend so far. Kimi Antonelli, you put in as your surprise driver of the weekend. Of course, his second home Grand Prix, more his kind of real home Grand Prix. It's weird, isn't it? Imola, even though it's in Italy, this is the Italian Grand Prix. And, of course, where he spun off in his first Formula One drive last year, and then spun off again in free practice, to be fair. But we're expecting a little bit more from Kimi Antonelli, and you guys are hoping for a good surprise from him. I was expecting maybe a little bit more of a Williams as well in the surprises, thinking of those kind of midfield teams that might shock, just because we know Williams have an insane straight line speed. It's one thing that they've always done incredibly well. You know, you look back at even Nick de Vries was able to get points in a Williams car here. What was that, 2-3 seasons ago, possibly even now, when he was stepping in for Alex Albon. We know that they've got that straight line speed inside of the Williams car. So if you're going to look for a midfield team that is maybe going to stand out, the Williams team seemed to be the one. But you guys went for the best team, being the McLaren cars. Again, I think most people expecting the McLaren team to get that 1-2 finish and get those points on the board. They have been incredibly strong when it's come to the Constructors' Championship this year. There's a reason that they've got, well, double the points of everybody else. Ferrari, Mercedes, Red Bull, all now over that 200-point threshold. McLaren nearly at 600 points for the season. But as I say, I think Williams could be the team to watch here in that midfield pack that really need just a few more points to make that feel a bit more comfortable in fifth place. Because it did feel like at the beginning of the season, especially when Alex Albon was finishing fifth pretty consistently, it was like, oh, okay, Williams are definitely going to finish fifth in the Constructors' Championship this year. Slowly, it's become more and more competitive, hasn't it? Aston Martin, Racing Bulls getting a podium with Isaac Hadjar, Stake getting a podium with Nico Hülkenberg. It's kind of closed that gap a little bit. Then going into the struggles, I'm sorry, Lewis Hamilton fans, he's once again been voted as the driver you think is going to struggle the most. Do you think it's going to be the pressure of the Ferrari, possibly? The fact that Tifosi are so behind him? Or just the fact that he is, you know, really getting to the point in the season where lots of people are questioning this move now? And we had quite a strong start to the year, you know, the Chinese Grand Prix weekend. He got that victory in the sprint race, and it was like, okay, maybe there's a little bit of momentum here for Lewis Hamilton inside of the Ferrari. It's been very negative. And then I think compounding the fact that we came back from the summer break, we were expecting to get a little bit more from him and the team coming into the second half of the season, and then We have, you know, the double DNF. Lewis Hamilton certainly to blame for his DNF, just going that little bit wide, and a driver with his much experience not expected to make that kind of mistake when it does come to a Grand Prix like the Dutch Grand Prix. Okay, you can kind of take off the fact that Charles Leclerc was taken out by Kimi Antonelli, and Antonelli maybe just a little bit more overzealous when he was coming out of the pit lane and wanting to be the standout Mercedes driver, because George Russell had that little bit of damage on his Mercedes car. But yeah, Lewis Hamilton being voted the struggle of the weekend. And again, get yours in the comments down below. What do you think in terms of these predictions? Not too late to get your predictions in just before the Grand Prix. And then finally, the flop team of the weekend, you're expecting to be Aston Martin. We know that they do struggle in a straight line, kind of the opposite of what I was just saying with Williams. Throughout this season so far, we've seen that the Aston Martin has really struggled to get its car going. We've heard Fernando Alonso on the radio a good few times sort of asking about why there's less power seemingly inside of this Aston Martin car, why they can't get it to go well in a straight line. And especially when Fernando Alonso's been stuck in traffic. Like, we've seen him a couple of times this year pit from that kind of midfield pack just to get outside of the DRS trains that we've seen over the last few Grand Prix, and you know, playing the tactic of that as well. We go back to Hungary when Fernando Alonso just held up everybody in the midfield pack so that he could build himself a little bit of an advantage, knowing that he didn't want to get undercut during the pit stops. I think the Aston Martin team, as much as they're kind of getting better, and certainly their drivers right in the mix in terms of that midfield pack, Lance Stroll now on 32 points, Fernando Alonso on 30 points. You know, they're ahead of the Ocons and Lawsons and Gaslys of this world, and they are sort of probably looking at Hulkenberg and Hadjar and thinking, realistically, considering the consistency that they've had, they maybe should have more points on the board. You know, you look at Fernando Alonso, his season only really started in Spain. He's managed to get 30 points on the board. Or you could say Nico Hulkenberg's season also only really started in Spain. He's managed to get 37 points on the board. And I think that's where sort of Hadjar and Albon have been more consistent throughout the whole season. Aston Martin, this is not one of the races I'm expecting them to get a good result in, unfortunately. Racing Bulls right there, 2 points behind. Stake Sauber right there, 11 points behind. Could Aston Martin fall back to 7th, maybe even 8th place once again? 9th place would be a real disaster for Aston Martin. Obviously, they need a few good weekends in a row. You guys are not expecting Aston Martin to have that good weekend, but you never know. These are just the predictions of the community. What are your predictions in particular? Who do you think is going to win? Who can you see being on the podium? Who's going to be your surprise driver? I'd love to know your specifics down in the comments below, or get involved in the chat as well, because I just think Monza could throw up a little bit of a discussion point. I think Monza is one of those races that is pretty difficult to predict, to be honest with you. It's just one of those races where anything can happen. You know, we've seen Max Verstappen and Lewis Hamilton on top of one another in Monza before. We've seen Charles Leclerc win here last year when the McLaren cars looked like it was going to be them all day, every day. So just don't know when it comes to Monza. It's one of the more exciting races of the season. Who do I think will fill the remaining spots on the grid? There aren't many remaining spots. Oh, Pierre Gasly got his extension at Alpine. Don't know whether you can see that as a positive for Pierre, but he's got at least until 2028 inside of the Alpine car as well. Yeah, Hamilton's got that place drop as well, 5-place penalty for Lewis Hamilton. So even if he gets pole position, he'll start from 6th place. So also that to take into account from Lewis Hamilton's side of things. I think that's also kind of played into why he is being seen as a driver who may struggle when it comes to this weekend. But is what it is when it comes to Lewis Hamilton and that grid drop. Unfortunately, he made like a very small error, but an error nonetheless. Yeah, the grid penalty is indeed confirmed. Shall we have a little look? We're about 5 minutes away from the start of qualifying. Let's have a little look and get a couple of bits loaded up in the background. Can you let me know what you think of my fantasy team? Leclerc, Kimi, Hadjar, Ocon, Bortoletto, Mercedes, and RB. I think, considering how unpredictable this season has been, I think the only thing is you probably want a McLaren in there. We've seen that McLaren just have the pace this year. If you want consistent points, it's McLaren, isn't it? Everyone else is very up and down. Right now, I'll be lucky to be awake by Q2. Don't worry, it's about to get going. And we know Monza qualifying is always good, because it's all about straight line speed. It's all about getting the slipstreams in. We're going to see some slingshotting. If they like to investigate one incident on the spot, they would investigate. But if they feel they don't want to, they investigate only after the race. I think it's just the fact that they keep saying, you know, there isn't the staff, basically. They're like, oh, we've only got so many people. We can only look at so many things at one point. You know, we can't look at every single incident during the race. To which I would just say, why are you not hiring more people, right? Why are you not getting more people then? If you know that you don't have enough people to look at every single incident as it happens, why are you not getting more people involved and, you know, hopefully allowing yourself more time to look at those incidents? Because as you say, a lot of the time we do incidents left until after the Grand Prix. I suppose the Hamilton one, because it was on the formation, I know it was on the lap to the grid, was it? Formation? I can't remember now. It was well before the actual start of the Grand Prix. But here's the one that is. F1's cheap when they want to be. Yeah, that's very true. Like, oh, we could just hire more people to be in the steward's office. And then they're like, yeah, but if we hire more people, we have to train them. We want them to be experts. And then on the other side of things, or it's like, oh, we need to rotate them so there's no biases and things like that. But I think at the end of the day, they just need more stewards and to pay the stewards better and to actually sort of train the stewards how they want them to be, right? There's so many people that they could get involved in the stewards room. There's so many people that have raced at an incredibly high level across the world that would be more than capable of looking at an incident from both perspectives, having the experience as a race driver. Like, they don't have to be ex-Formula One drivers, just a race driver in general. You can look at how an incident plays out and you can go, okay, this is how my opinion would be. Then you get 3 or 4 of those drivers to all do the same thing. They all give their opinions and you look at what the consistent opinion is, right? It's almost like a vote of the people. It's like that Science Lawson incident could have easily been one where you just give 5 drivers in the stewards room, you get them to look at both of the onboards, and then you get them to say their piece, like which driver do they blame, what do they think the problem was, and how would they rectify it. And then you just see if there's any consistency there. And you just go, okay, 4 of you out of the 5 said that it's this driver's fault. You'd have given them this penalty. That's what we're going to do. And it can't take that long if you've got the people there. If you've got the people there to do it. But Formula One never wants to hire more stewards. They always seem to have a little bit of a problem with that. Why so much Norris hate? F1 fans are toxic. I don't think there's Norris hate in particular. I think just a lot of people, I don't know. Norris does seem to get a lot more attention. I think it's just because he's in the limelight a lot more. He's one of the more popular drivers on the grid, and therefore has a really big fan base. But also then when you're in the limelight, you also get the negative side of those things. So I think when there's more people that love you, there's also more people that hate you. It's like, it's that weird thing with celebrity, isn't it? You know, if you're a celebrity, the more people that know you, yes, you get more positive, but you also get more negative. So it's like everything. Like, I get that on a very small scale with the videos that I do. You know, the bigger that this channel gets, the more people that watch me. I get more people that enjoy watching my content and are having a good time. I get more people that hate watching my content and not enjoy what I do. So kind of is what it is sometimes with that kind of thing. Here we go then. The Tifosi are out. Shall we move over to the slightly more detailed board? Ooh. Let me just move this. Heavy expectation. The Ferrari fans watching Lewis Hamilton leave the garage for the first time. And the clock is going to start rolling very, very soon. Where are we at? 17 minutes on the clock. 17 minutes 45. Let's make sure that my stream is lined up. And here we go then. The Tifosi are out in full force. That's a lot of Ferrari hats out there. We've also got to keep an eye out for Dan No Skill. Let's see if we can spot Dan in the crowd out there as well. He is in Italy. We know that if he gets the chance to talk to Craig Slater, he most certainly will. He is definitely going to be wearing a Ferrari hat somewhere in amongst that, though, isn't he? A lot of Lewis Hamilton fans in there as well. Hamilton is in the pit lane. He's getting ready and to go out on track. At the moment, it's Kimi Antonelli actually leading the way. The Italian driver at the Italian Grand Prix. He wants to get his lap in first and foremost. Ocon, Behrman, Stroll, Gasly, Bortoletto, Alonso, Colapinto, Hulkenberg out on track as well. George Russell now making his way down towards turn 1. Carlos Sainz also coming out. Charles Leclerc is ahead of Lewis Hamilton, but there is a lot of focus on Lewis Hamilton right now. And the roar from the Tifosi as he makes his way out on track for the first time in a Ferrari in Monza. It's so frustrating that he's got that 5-place grid penalty. It's like the worst possible race that he could have a 5-place grid penalty for, but it is what it is. And Lewis Hamilton now making his way around turn 3 behind Charles Leclerc. Kimi Antonelli is actually slowed down, maybe doing a second lap to get those tyres up to temperature, because Ocon, Behrman, Stroll have all made their way past Kimi Antonelli. We're going to see some fast laps coming in from the 2 Haas drivers then, first and foremost. And Hamilton underperforming at Ferrari. Do you think it shows how good Leclerc is? Yeah, most certainly as well. I don't think we can underestimate, Hamilton is going into a Ferrari team where Charles Leclerc is one of the best drivers on the grid, right? Like, he consistently puts that Ferrari onto pole position. He's, not quite converted. What is it? 26, 27 pole positions Charles Leclerc has. He hasn't converted every single one of those into race victories by any means, but I think that's less been his fault and more been the Ferrari team's fault when it's come to race pace versus qualifying pace. And Charles Leclerc is one of the most decorated drivers still on the grid right now for that reason. Like, he is very, very strong. Ocon does indeed come across the line. It's a 121.0 from him and a 120.7 from Ollie Behrman. Behrman being given the toe by his teammate. So I'd imagine the Haas drivers will swap around. Again, we've got that team dynamic as well, where you've got the slipstream from the drivers. Gabriel Bortoletto, a 120.3 from him, a 120.5 from Fernando Alonso. Colapinto comes across the line, a 120.6. Nico Hulkenberg, the first driver into the 119s. Lewis Hamilton goes purple in the first sector, fastest of anybody so far. Charles Leclerc is also going well through the middle part of the lap as well. George Russell comes across the line, always within 2 or 3 hundredths of a second to Nico Hulkenberg. Hulkenberg still top of the timing sheets for now, though. Charles Leclerc just coming around the final corner, turn 11, that long loop around towards the straight, peel to the right-hand side of the track, come across the line as soon as you possibly can, and Charles Leclerc does go to the top of the timing sheets for now, 1:19.8, and Lewis Hamilton a 1:19.9. But Nico Hülkenberg within 0.2 of Charles Leclerc's Ferrari there. Just goes to show how very close it is in Formula One at the moment. Esteban Ocon and Ollie Behrman just making their way into the pit lane. We are finally seeing Kimi Antonelli put in a flying lap in his Mercedes car. Antonelli not putting a real lap time in last time around. Max Verstappen out on track too. We've seen Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri getting out on track also. I'm kind of interested in the Williams cars as well. We haven't seen Sainz or Albon set a flying lap yet in this qualifying session. Of course, we have a little bit of an idea from free practice 2 and free practice 3 as to where the drivers are going to sit, but you never know when it comes to qualifying. We sometimes see a little bit of a turning point for these drivers and teams. Max Verstappen coming around the middle sector, just trying to make his way down through turn 7. We've seen turn 7 be a real tricky one for the drivers so far this weekend. Quite a few drivers finding the gravel in turn 7. Kimi Antonelli beaching himself on the outside of turn 7 as well during free practice. We know that is probably the most difficult corner to get right. Kimi Antonelli making his way around it as we speak. He did slot in 0.3 of a second behind George Russell and a little bit off the pace, Kimi Antonelli. Max Verstappen about to come across the start-finish line. What kind of lap time do we get from the four-time world champion? Oh, he is 100th of a second slower than Charles Leclerc. Slots into second place as Max Verstappen for now. Lando Norris has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle part of the lap as well, and is 1/10 of a second up on Charles Leclerc as he comes through the middle sector. Oscar Piastri 0.02 of a second slower than Charles Leclerc's time through the middle sector, but still the final sector to run for those two McLaren cars. Lando Norris is going to be the first of the two of them across the start-finish line, and Norris comes across the line to go quickest of anybody by a couple of tenths of a second. A 1:19.6 from Lando Norris, which is then rebutted with a 1:19.7 from Oscar Piastri. Exactly 1/10 of a second slower than his teammate. So it's the two RBs and the two Williams cars yet to come. Here comes Isaac Hadjar, though. 9th fastest of anybody so far. 0.5 second of Lando Norris's time at the moment. Carlos Sainz has just peeled off into the pits as Liam Lawson sets his lap time and goes 11th fastest. What happened to Carlos Sainz here? What's that turn 7 by the looks of things? On the exit turn 7, gets into the gravel, loses the rear end of that Williams car, and that will have ruined his lap time, and also would have deleted his lap time as he had all 4 wheels off the racetrack as he skid through that final part of the lap. Oof. And Verstappen also doing the same, asking the Red Bull team to check the floor of that car. Oh, and Alex Albon also in the Williams car, missing turn 1, just braking that a little bit later, having to go down the escape road. So both of the Williamses not setting a respective lap time as we have 9 minutes and 30 seconds to go. Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri still at the top of the timing sheet. It's Leclerc, Verstappen, Hamilton just behind. Nico Hülkenberg, the surprise package at the moment, in 6th place in a Stake Sauber car. Behrman, Stroll and Ocon, the 3 drivers that have set sort of real lap times, I was going to say, that need to improve. Behrman and Ocon, though, were the first drivers out on track, so lost out due to all that rubber that has been put down by the other 18 drivers completing their laps as well. And Lance Stroll in between the 2 Hasses. Oh, thank you. Big spike of subscribers then. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button. That'd be absolutely amazing. hit the like button on the stream as well as we head into the second half of this first qualifying round. Of course, we're just looking for that bottom 5. So Behrman, Stroll, Ocon, Albon and Sainz, the 5 drivers that will be desperate to improve in this one. Albon coming across the line to actually set a flying lap time and does go 9th fastest in the Williams car. Esteban Ocon also improves to get himself out of that bottom 5 and drop Gabriel Bortoleto into that problematic place. Charles Leclerc was slower than his original time in the first and final sectors, but does improve his lap time overall. Goes up into 2nd fastest. Fernando Alonso, though, I'll have to bite my tongue. I was saying that Aston Martin I thought might struggle this weekend. Fernando Alonso within a 10th of a second of Lando Norris's lap time there in the Aston Martin. George Russell has just gone quickest of anybody through the middle sector as Lewis Hamilton can only go or stay 5th fastest overall. Here comes George Russell in the Mercedes car, round turn 11. Looking to improve on his lap time, currently 8th fastest on the medium tyre as well, George Russell, and does improve to go fastest on the medium tyre. George Russell, a ridiculous flying lap there, 0.2 of a second quicker than even Lando Norris on a used set of medium tyres. The track possibly really rubbering in. Or George Russell possibly also realising that the medium tyre is the optimal one to be on in this qualifying section. Carlos Sainz comes across the line, finally gets a lap time together and goes 3rd fastest overall. I think the track is going to start to rubber in now. We're going to see a lot of drivers improving their lap times pretty substantially. It's Gasly, Antonelli, Colapinto, Ocon and Lawson now then. The 5 drivers that need to improve. Isaac Hadjar after his first ever podium in Formula 1 last time out now sits right on the edge of dropping out in this first qualifying session. Yuki Tsunoda fans out here in Monza. Tsunoda down in 13th at the moment. Track evolution going off the rails. I think this is the thing, right? It's so... Monza is such a weird track. It's very Canada-esque where it's all about grip into those sort of slower corners. All about getting the brakes in that perfect window where they're not overheating even in the really, really harsh braking zones. And then also getting turn 7 absolutely spot on. For me, the most difficult corner to absolutely nail. So if you look at the rest of it, down towards turn 1, super heavy, down into turn 1, into the chicane, super slow through the chicane. So you're just looking for that possibility to brake as late as humanly possible and getting those brakes into the perfect window. Medium tyre though, looking very good. Antonelli, balance was okay. I just had no grip, says Kimi Antonelli. Is down in 17th place at the moment, is the Italian. So certainly needs to work on that. How did Russell get first on the medium tyres? Your guess is as good as mine. Slightly used set of medium tyres as well on George Russell's car. Did 6 laps on those medium tyres. Set that flying lap on the 5th lap of those mediums tyres life. Absolutely insane from George Russell. I did say, you know, Canada, we saw the Mercedes car go very, very well in Canada. Very similar sort of style of track, you could argue, when it comes to the Monza Grand Prix. Antonelli taking a new set of soft tyres, though. Predicted cutoff time is around a 1:19.7. So even the likes of Oscar Piastri, Lewis Hamilton, unlikely to be absolutely safe with the lap times that they've got at the moment. George Russell, Lando Norris, Carlos Sainz, just about doing enough, likely to not have to improve to be able to get through into the second round of qualifying. And Ocon on the radio saying that he is alone out front, exactly what they didn't want to do. So unfortunately, somebody has to be first. And we've seen this at Monza before, where drivers will kind of battle with one another to not be the first driver out on track so that they get the slipstream from another car. And they just basically don't want to be the first in the queue. But Haas decided that they couldn't wait. They needed to get out on track. They didn't want to get in and amongst the problems that also then come with sitting in the queue in the pit lane. And on that, Isaac Hadjar and Carlos Sainz have come out very, very close to one another. So Verstappen and Antonelli also very, very tightly packed on the grid. In fact, Sainz and Hadjar are almost on top of one another as they come through turn 4, turn 5. I know that you want a slipstream, but you also want a little bit of a gap to the driver in front of you. Don't want to be quite underneath their rear wing, as Carlos Sainz is right now. Hadjar and Sainz sort of almost battling for position as they go through the middle sector, the RB and the Williams car. Gasly, Antonelli, Colapinto, Ocon and Lawson, the 5 drivers that need to improve. 2 minutes and 20 seconds still to run in this first qualifying session. Here comes Kimi Antonelli then. Let's keep an eye on the Mercedes driver, his second home Grand Prix of the season. A year on from his first Formula One experience. Of course, took to the track for Mercedes here in Italy when he was confirmed to be taking that seat for this 2025 season. It's been a mixed bag, I think, is sort of arguable to say for Kimi Antonelli. It's certainly had some highs. His first podium, his first pole position. It's also had some frustrating lows, crashing into Max Verstappen in Austria, then hitting into Charles Leclerc last time out in the Netherlands. We've seen those mistakes from the young Italian. Let's see what he's got here. It's an improvement in the first sector from Kimi Antonelli. Comes through turn 7 very well indeed, down towards the final sector. Kimi Antonelli improving in both, and in fact is a couple attempts up on Alex Albon's current P15 time. So should improve considerably, should Kimi Antonelli. Isaac Hadjar has just actually fallen down into that bottom 5. Hadjar and Sainz still on top of one another as they go through these flying laps. Maybe Carlos Sainz with a little bit of a tactic here. Here comes Kimi Antonelli, though, across the start-finish line. It's 11th fastest, and a 119.747. That could be right on the fringe of what's good enough to get yourself through. Isaac Hadjar is actually slow through the middle sector. So is Pierre Gasly. Both of those drivers in that pack at the bottom. Colapinto also slower than he was previously through the middle part of the lap as well. So it's not looking good for those 5 drivers down in the elimination zone at the moment. Isaac Hadjar is going to come across the line to go only 15th fastest. Doesn't feel like that's going to get Isaac Hadjar through. Here comes Gasly, only 18th fastest for him, and Colapinto. It doesn't feel like the Alpines are going to be able to get through, and they can't. Both of the Alpines are going to be out of this one. Colapinto and Gasly. It's frustrating for Alpine, but we know it's sort of one of those things. And Isaac Hadjar does indeed fall down to that bottom 5, although Alex Albon only goes 15th fastest at the moment. Lawson, luckily, is dropped into the pits. So I think it's only Lance Stroll, who I don't think is on a lap. No, Lance Stroll just coming through turn 1, turn 2. Here comes Nico Hülkenberg, who I think pulled off the gas a little bit after going fastest of anybody through the first sector, Nico Hülkenberg. He finishes the round 13th fastest. Gabriel Bortoleto beside him as well. But it is Hadjar, Stroll, Colapinto, Gasly, and Lawson who are going to drop out of this session. Oscar Piastri still on a flying lap. Actually didn't improve in the first or second sector, did the McLaren driver. Still completes that lap, though. And it's only 10th fastest for Oscar Piastri. McLaren have had a fairly slow start to the weekend. Oscar Piastri not looking incredibly comfortable at that point. And even Lando Norris ends up a tenth of a second adrift of George Russell's medium tyre run. Russell, a 119.414, is the fastest lap of the first session. Hadjar, Stroll, Colapinto, and Gasly join Liam Lawson in the pits and out of this session. Both of the RBs down there, both of the Alpines was expected. I think, you know, when we were talking about the predictions earlier on, we could have most certainly had the two Alpine drivers down in that expected to do pretty poorly, because we know that the Alpine, or the Renault engine inside of that Alpine car, is not the one that you want to be using when it comes to a straight line speed track like we have here in Monza. I do feel bad for Renault in that, you know, we had the engines locked in when it comes to this kind of Grand Prix weekend. When it comes to the regulations that we got right now, sorry, we had the, you know, okay, the engines are frozen. They are going to be what they are. Pretty much everyone's on the same page. But Alpine and Renault really aren't on the same page, are they? And there's a reason that they may be switching to the Mercedes engines come next season. Lance Stroll, also an interesting one. I was expecting the Aston Martins to struggle here, but Fernando Alonso flying up the ranks. Sixth fastest in that first part of qualifying was Fernando Alonso. Maybe a slightly different setup on Lance Stroll's car could be the only thing that would be a saving grace for the Canadian. But he is down there in that bottom five and out. And yeah, Isaac Hadjar goes from a podium finish in the Netherlands to a 16th place finish, or a 16th place start, I should say, when it comes to tomorrow's Grand Prix in Monza. What do we think then? Q2, we need to see another 5 drivers drop out of it. If it stays as it is, Antonelli, Hamilton, Hülkenberg, Ocon and Albon would be the 5 drivers to fall. Most certainly not the 5 drivers I would have predicted to go out in Q2. Antonelli, his home Grand Prix. Lewis Hamilton, his first Ferrari Grand Prix in front of the Tifosi. And Hülkenberg has been very, very quick in a few sections of the track in particular. And Hadjar not very happy on the radio at all. It is a pretty frustrating one for Isaac Hadjar, going from such elation to dropping out. I wonder like how much Carlos Sainz was putting him off. Carlos Sainz was right on top of him throughout, not just the formation lap or the warm-up lap, but also the flying lap that Oscar Piastri did, that Isaac Hadjar did as well. Yeah, Lawson at the back as well. Little bit of a delay to the start of Q2. I think they're just trying to get a little bit of the gravel off the track. There was a few drivers that did manage to swing the rear end of their cars into the gravel. We saw this a few times in free practice as well, where the marshals just had to make their way out on track. Oh, there it was, Isaac Hadjar. It was turn 7. And adding to that pocket of gravel is on the inside of the track there. Just lost the rear end of that RB car. Dipped the rear left tyre into the gravel, and that was why he was frustrated. Q2 will start at 4:27 local time. You can see that just at the bottom of your screens. Getting an update from race control. And just sweeping the gravel off the track at the moment. I don't need to have 2 straight good weekends to be demoted to the Red Bull. Harsh. Is it a demotion? I don't know. Going into 2026 might not be quite the demotion that we're expecting it to be. Alonso should be P1. He's done better than I was expecting him to do, if I'm honest with you. If I was going to do my predictions, I would have had both of the Alpines and both of the Aston Martins in that bottom 5. But as it stands, both of the Alpines, but just one of the Aston Martins down there. Lance Stroll unable to make his way through. Lewis Hamilton in the Ferrari garage. 12th fastest at the moment. Can I say Alonso? Sure. Alonso P 1,111. Be tough starting from there to get anywhere near the points, but I'll have to wait and see. Can we talk about Yuki? Yeah, Yuki up into 4th place there. Kind of snuck under the radar. In fact, Max Verstappen also very quick. Was not expecting the Red Bull to be ridiculously quick when it comes to the Monza Grand Prix weekend, if I'm honest. And Liam Lawson, that was why he abandoned the lap as well. He made a mistake through turn 6. That middle sector, the absolute nail in the coffin for both of the RB cars. And Pierre Gasly also making a mistake. The final corner as he comes around towards turn 11. The rear of the car just steps out and a slide towards the outside of the track. Yeah, you can tell Gasly not quite in control of that Alpine through turn 11 in the way that he would have wanted to be. So Colapinto actually out qualifying Pierre Gasly as well. Something to maybe talk about. I know it's only 18th versus 19th, but is what it is. Sainz is flying this weekend. Yeah, Sainz is doing a brilliant job. I was expecting the Williams cars to be quick, but even Alex Albon there just snuck through. Sainz really showing what the Williams is capable of during that first part of qualifying. We are just a minute away from the second part of qualifying clicking into gear. Russell quickest on the medium tyre as well. I think that's a bit of a mystery. Let's see if that continues on and George Russell comes out on the medium tyre once again. It was weird that he set that flying lap time, not only on a medium tyre, but a medium tyre that he'd done a couple of laps on as well. Like, very, very specific circumstances playing into George Russell's favour there. Yeah, talking about Gabriel Bortoleto and Max Verstappen, the relationship that they've got. They do sim race together quite a lot, and I know Max Verstappen has given a little bit of a toe to Gabriel Bortoleto there. I don't think that was intentional, but they are friends. So you never know. Maybe Max Verstappen just doing Gabriel Bortoleto a favour, deciding that he wants his sim partner to do a bit better in the real life races as well. Here we are then. Q2 underway. 14.5 minutes on the clock. Ferrari waiting and watching. All eyes on Ferrari this weekend. They can't run away from it, can the Ferrari drivers? They know that the pressure is on them to perform this weekend. More than any other weekend, really. It's an additional pressure that you do gain just driving for Ferrari, isn't it? It's a blessing and a curse. You get the additional fan praise if you do well here in Monza, but you also get the additional gaze on you from the fans and negativity if you don't quite get there. Lewis Hamilton does need to improve in this second part of qualifying if he's going to give the Tifosi what they're expecting to see. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, the two drivers out on track. Mine and Duck's mood on Monday depends on a good Ferrari result. I'm hoping for a good Ferrari result. Everyone likes to see Ferrari do well in Monza, don't they? It's just starting to get a little bit contentious as to whether Hamilton is going to really deliver what is expected from him inside of that Ferrari car this year. And again, if there's one race you don't want a 5-place grid penalty, it's probably the Monza Grand Prix in a Ferrari. And that's exactly what he's got. So going to be tricky. Carlos Sainz punching a hole in the air for Alex Albon. Albon behind Carlos Sainz. We'll see what the difference is in lap times here, because obviously Alex Albon is behind Carlos Sainz, but is going to gain the advantage of the slipstream. Is quicker through the first part of the lap by almost a tenth of a second quicker there, Alex Albon, through that first sector. That toe certainly playing a part in that. Carlos Sainz round turn 7. He comes down the hill towards the final sector. Under the bridge, Carlos Sainz comes 53.447 as he comes through the middle part of the lap. Alex Albon again, about a tenth of a second quicker through that sector as well. So a couple of attempts up now is Alex Albon on his teammate. Down the final back straight towards turn 11. We're now seeing the other drivers making their way out on track as well. Verstappen, Ocon, Behrman, Russell, Antonelli, Tsunoda already out on track. But let's keep an eye on Carlos Sainz. Comes across the line at 120.2. So 6/10 slower than Q1. And Alex Albon, well, 121.4. That's a pretty horrendous final sector from Alex Albon. Don't know where he lost that lap time, Alex Albon, but the toe from Carlos Sainz in the first and second sectors kind of ruined by Alex Albon in the final sector. It'd be interesting to see. Williams will likely swap them around now. What happened to Alex Albon through turn 8? Oh, dips his tyres into the gravel as he drifts out of turn 8 and through turn 9. And yeah, not sure why he even finished the lap, to be honest with you. He's lost a good chunk of time going through there. Well, a second, more than a second. He was a couple of attempts up on Carlos Sainz coming out of the middle sector. Ended up the lap 1.1 seconds adrift. It did, Alex Albon. Max Verstappen now. His first flying lap of this second qualifying session. Verstappen coming around turn 3. Let's see what his lap time is like. Comes through the first sector. It's purple by a tenth of a second or so. Nearly 0.2 of a second from Max Verstappen. Very, very quick from the Red Bull man. Ollie Behrman and Ocon behind as well in the Haas. Behrman a 26.4. Actually, everyone 26.4. Max Verstappen also purple in the middle part of the lap, 0.5 of a second quicker than Carlos Sainz's lap time. And this is more like we were expecting to see. To be honest, both of those Williams times pretty dismal. Alex Albon's in particular because of that mistake in the final sector, but Carlos Sainz's time is nowhere near good enough to get him through this second part of qualifying either. Max Verstappen is going to set the real standard here, it feels like, inside of his Red Bull, although Lewis Hamilton has just gone quickest of anybody in the first sector, then displaced by Gabriel Bortoleto going quickest of anybody so far. Max Verstappen is top of the timing sheets overall with a 119.1. Behrman half a second adrift in second spot, and Ocon then another 0.3 behind his teammate. Here comes George Russell to go second fastest. Now on the soft compound tyre is George Russell, but second fastest for him. Kimi Antonelli slots in third fastest. Couple attempts off of his teammate. Gabriel Bortoleto, though, still the fastest man through the first sector. Second sector still Max Verstappen's at the moment. But here comes Charles Leclerc across the line, goes third fastest. Couple attempts off Verstappen right now. Lando Norris being told to box this lap. Here comes Bortoleto to go third fastest of anybody. The Brazilian up into the podium places. Lando Norris, though, brand new tyres on that McLaren car, was on a flying lap and is now being told to pit this lap. Did he make a mistake somewhere or do something unexpected? Oscar Piastri, though, continues to finish his lap. Piastri goes third fastest and 10.5 adrift of Max Verstappen's time. And Lando Norris into the pits for the McLaren team. Is this more misery for the McLaren, or the British side of the McLaren garage, I should say? Lando Norris, the driver yet to set a flying lap time. What was the problem? Going down towards turn 1, misses turn 1 and turn 2. Yeah. Didn't want to completely ruin those tyres and just completely lost that lap time, did Lando Norris. And that's why they decided to just bring that car in. Whew, okay. At least not any kind of mechanical fault or anything like that for Lando Norris at this point. Just a mistake down in towards turn 1 meant that it wasn't really worth him continuing on that set of tyres. The thumbs up though. And Lando Norris ready to go once more inside of the McLaren garage. They're probably going to get him out fairly early, I would imagine, as Bortoleto and Albon. Oh no, sorry, Bortoleto coming into the pits. Albon continuing on. Carlos Sainz has improved in the first and second sectors at least. Both of the Williams cars down in that bottom 5 now. It's Ocon, Albon, Sainz and Hülkenberg, the 4 drivers who have set lap times who need to improve them. Lando Norris yet to set one at the moment. And not too many opportunities for Lando Norris to do it once more. Carlos Sainz, only 9th fastest and still 4 tenths off the pace. Carlos Sainz at 119.5. I'm not sure that that's going to be quite enough from the Spaniard. Alex Albon also on a flying lap. What's this replay of Alex Albon? Alex Albon's done that a couple of times now. Just misjudged turn 1. Didn't have to go to the escape road there, but did lock up that front right tyre. Alex Albon clearly just not quite able to judge the braking point for turn 1 exactly how he would like to at this point in time inside of that Williams car. We know that Alex Albon also struggled a little bit last weekend. So it will be tight for push, cool, push. So Lando Norris, they are going to go for 2 flying laps on these tyres, but Lando Norris being told it's going to be tight in terms of time. So he's going to have to go for it, and this first flying lap might be the one that needs to carry him through into the second part of qualifying. Here comes Lando Norris then, DRS wide open inside of that McLaren car. Down towards turn 1, needs to get it right, misjudged it last time around, gets it perfectly this time around. No lockup for Lando Norris. He goes through turn 1 and turn 2, carries that speed round turn 3, flat out in these Formula 1 cars now, all the way through turn 3, down towards turn 4 as late as he possibly can, then into the left-hander of turn 4, through turn 5, very smooth from Lando Norris there inside of the McLaren car. It's a much better first sector than the previous one, obviously. Then round the trickiest part of the lap, in my opinion, turn 6 and turn 7. It's so difficult to gauge exactly the perfect line through there. And especially because these cars are running as little downforce as they can possibly get away with. Ollie Behrman, Lando Norris, sorry, only a 10th or so quicker than Ollie Behrman's time as he comes through that middle part of the lap. And Lando Norris now coming around turn 11. Will get himself up into the top 10, surely, but might not be comfortably inside of the top 10. It's only 7th fastest from Lando Norris. He's 0.3 of a second adrift of Max Verstappen's fastest lap time. And again, there's needs to get that car around once more, I would say. Lando Norris gonna have a cool down lap, possibly another cool down lap to get those tires back into the right window. And Lando Norris with an opportunity now for one more flying lap, as everybody else is also joining this queue. Verstappen, Tsunoda, Ocon, Behrman. Verstappen clearly not worried about getting the toe. I feel like with a 119.1, he feels like he's comfortable enough that he's going to get through into the second or the final part of qualifying, sorry, fairly comfortably. So deciding to actually help out his teammate a bit here. Yuki Tsunoda behind Verstappen will get the toe from the 4-time world champion. Ocon and Behrman behind in the two Haas cars as well. Antonelli being followed incredibly closely by Fernando Alonso. So interesting that we've seen a few of the drivers do this. Carlos Sainz was doing it behind Isaac Hadjar as well, getting very, very close to the rear wing of the car in front, getting as big a toe as possible. Does cost you in the corners because you're in that dirty air and overheating the engine possibly as well. But Alonso deciding that that's his best opportunity. Lets Antonelli go a little bit further ahead as they come around turn 11, but we're now seeing Verstappen and Tsunoda starting their flying laps. Ocon comes across the start-finish line as well. Has to get around Carlos Sainz or Alex Albon there. Can't see which of the two Williams it is. Alex Albon coming out of the pits, just moving out of the way of the two Haas cars. Antonelli and Alonso also start their flying laps. Lando Norris moves to the side of the track as Charles Leclerc starts his lap too. Ocon is not improving through the first sector, so the Haas cars struggling at the moment. Ollie Behrman does improve just a touch through the first sector, but so does Fernando Alonso. It's going to be very tight indeed. We're seeing Nico Hülkenberg now coming around the final corner. He's in 15th place and needs to improve. Alex Albon just coming around turn 7, but not on a flying lap. Esteban Ocon better in the middle part of the lap, but still adrift of Carlos Sainz's 10th place time at the moment. Ocon needs an absolutely stunning final sector here if he is going to get himself out of that bottom 5. And even if he does at this point, a lot of drivers going for another lap still. Ollie Behrman, the driver in 11th place at the moment. Can he improve as well? Ocon comes across the line, does improve, but it's only 12th fastest, stays in that bottom 5. But Behrman manages to get himself up into that top 10. So at least one of the Haas cars with an opportunity to get through. Here comes Kimi Antonelli with the fastest final sector time of anybody. Fernando Alonso did a great job of holding on to the back of the Mercedes car and does indeed get himself up into that top 10. That puts Lewis Hamilton down into the bottom 5, by the way. Here comes Charles Leclerc to go 5th fastest in the Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton needs to improve. He's coming through that final sector now. George Russell also crossing the start-finish line as we speak to start his final flying lap. Oscar Piastri coming around the final corner. All eyes on Lewis Hamilton, though. Hamilton coming across the start-finish line now. It's 8th fastest from him. That puts Ollie Behrman down into that bubble again. Nico Hülkenberg can only go 12th fastest, so he's not going to be able to do it. Carlos Sainz as well doesn't improve enough. Carlos Sainz 13th fastest. So Lando Norris is down in that bottom 5 once again. Alex Albon is improving through the middle sector. It's 200ths of a second for Alex Albon versus Ollie Behrman at the moment. But realistically, Albon needs to get up ahead of Yuki Tsunoda to get through, because I'm assuming Lando Norris is going to improve on his lap time. Lando Norris has improved through the first sector in his McLaren. So Albon coming around the final corner. Can he push himself up into 9th place? Is where he needs to go? No. Alex Albon stays in that bottom 5. So it is just Lando Norris versus Ollie Behrman for who is going to make it through into the top 10. Hülkenberg, Sainz, Albon and Ocon are all out. Lando Norris doesn't improve through the middle sector, but he is still up on Ollie Behrman's time through that middle part of the lap. Final sector then for Lando Norris. Little bit of traffic on the right-hand side as he has to go past Bortoleto and Leclerc as he enters through turn 11. Gets very close to the inside line of the track. Can he get it up into the top 10? Yes! And Ollie Behrman drops down into 11th spot, and Ollie Behrman is out of it. Lando Norris then 5th fastest of anybody. Whew. Left it late, did Lando Norris, after that little mistake into turn 1, but breathe a sigh of relief, McLaren fans. They are both through, but the McLaren car maybe not looking as dominant this weekend as most were expecting. Verstappen and Antonelli ahead of Oscar Piastri. George Russell also up in 4th spot. The Mercedes car looking good for this Monza weekend. Again, very similar to Canada. I think I said it when we were doing the predictions. Don't want to toot my own horn. double Ferrari, please. Both Ferraris are through. Hamilton only 9th fastest, though. And Tsunoda also sneaks in there as well. But it is 2 Mercedes cars, 2 Red Bull cars, 2 Ferrari cars, and 2 McLaren cars. We actually have all 8 of the top 8. Hasn't actually been many of the races this season where during qualifying we've actually seen all 8 of the top 8 cars actually get their way through into qualifying. I mean, can we even count Yuki Tsunoda as a top 8 driver where he is in the current driver's standings, but is in one of the top 4 teams, so we have to still count him. Yuki Tsunoda has made it through. The 2 drivers that have joined the sort of standard top 8, if you will. Gabriel Bortoleto, 7th fastest in that Stake Sauber car, once again outdoes Nico Hülkenberg. It's started to get very one-sided in that Stake Sauber garage when it comes to the qualifying of those 2. And Fernando Alonso, I really was not expecting the Aston Martins to be anywhere near as competitive as they have been, or well, they are in the hands of Fernando Alonso in terms of qualifying this time around. I was expecting maybe a little bit more from the Williams cars, but they're down in 13th and 14th place. It's very, very close, though, as to who is going to be where. Pole position predictions, shall I get them in now? George Russell was the quickest during Q1. Max Verstappen, quickest during Q2. I'd love to know who you think is going to be at the top of the standings come the end of Q3. Oof. Thank you to the new subs. Yes, Sally, thank you very much indeed. We are on our way to 150,000 subscribers. If you have not subscribed, make sure that you have. Also, whilst we're here, I talked about it a little bit before we got going with the qualifying session, but I have just released a brand new podcast channel. It is myself, Mr. V, Dan No Skill, Mr. Pulse, and Formula Duck, the 5 of us working together. So if you like any of the one of us, any one of the 5 of us, get involved. The first link in the description. It is called Crash Happy. The first episode has indeed been released. So make sure that maybe after this qualifying session, you head over there. We had a little chat post Netherlands. We discussed the McLarens and what we expected to see from them for the rest of the season. We discussed the Ferrari fumbles and tumbles when it came to the Netherlands Grand Prix as well. And we discussed what the best pizza toppings are. Very Italian of us, building up to the Italian Grand Prix. So if you could hit that link in the description as well, that'd be absolutely amazing. We're trying to get 1,000 subscribers over on that channel. And I can tell you that if I hit this button on my phone, we're on 951. 951. Isaac Hadjar, not very happy at all. We are heading into Q3, though, just for those of us that missed Q1 and Q2. The 10 drivers out so far. Ollie Behrman is in 11th place. He will start just outside of the points come tomorrow's Grand Prix. Nico Hülkenberg will start in 12th place. Carlos Sainz and Alex Albon, 13th and 14th, a double Williams row there. The 7th row of the grid. Then Esteban Ocon dropped out in 15th place. So Behrman, Hülkenberg, Sainz, Albon, Ocon, the 5 drivers that we lost in Q2. Hadjar, Stroll, Colapinto, Gasly, and Lawson, the 5 drivers that dropped out in Q1. Those 10 drivers are locked in. I'm going to grey them out on the screen now for us. And we head into the final qualifying session with 10 drivers still in the battle for pole position. Verstappen, Antonelli, Piastri, Russell, Norris, Leclerc, Bortoleto, Alonso, Hamilton, and Tsunoda all fight for the right to start at the front tomorrow. Another little one. Do you really want to start from the front when it comes to Monza? It's a very long run down towards turn 1. The slipstream down towards turn 1. Will you be able to hold on to that position We saw Oscar Piastri and Lando Norris have a little tete-a-tete last year, going down towards turn 4 when they were side by side. That allowed Charles Leclerc the opportunity to get involved and eventually go on to win the Grand Prix. So just because you started at the front doesn't mean you necessarily will be at the front after the first couple of corners, but still worth fighting for nonetheless. If Lewis Hamilton has a penalty this weekend, so should Kimi. Arguable, yeah. What happened to Williams? Just did not have the pace at all. Sainz looked the quicker of the two. Did Sainz in the end? Yeah, just about. Actually, only just about got quicker than Alex Albon, but neither of them really able to truly harness that Williams car. Alex Albon looked really off of it and unstable. A couple of times we saw him dive into turn 1 and just lose control of that Williams car. The Twitch title still says the Netherlands Grand Prix. Oops. Thank you. Let's just edit that super quickly. Although we are getting towards the end of qualifying. We've only got the final qualifying session to go, but forgot to change that. Thank you for letting me know. Let's click done. I don't know what you mean. It certainly says Italian Grand Prix qualifying. Bortoletto is the surprise here. Bortoletto is surprising everyone so far this season, isn't he? He's just continuing to turn up and be the driver that gets those performances. And I agree. I think Bortoletto, I wouldn't have expected him to be the main man at Stakes Sauber when it comes to qualifying this season, but he's outdone Nico Hülkenberg a good few times now and is starting to really put a gap between him and Hülkenberg in the head-to-head qualifyings, and is part of this Q3 battle. We're going to see another midfield driver pick up a podium. We saw Nico Hülkenberg in Silverstone. We saw Isaac Hadjar in the Netherlands. We're going to see another Monza special. Gabriel Bortoletto pick up his first podium in his Formula One career. Imagine that, 2 rookies, back-to-back races picking up their first podiums. That'd be insane. And the 2 drivers that literally were battling it out for the championship in F2 last year. Isaac Hadjar came second to Gabriel Bortoletto in last year's Formula 2 championship. But let's get in ahead of ourselves. We've got one final qualifying session to run before we get 2 into the Grand Prix for tomorrow. Lando Norris is the first driver out on track. Left it a little bit late, did Lando, last time around, so clearly wanting to get a lap in early. Kimi Antonelli, his home Grand Prix, just behind Lando Norris. Piastri is out there as well. Russell's just coming towards turn 3. Leclerc making his way through the first chicane. Alonso then following. Lewis Hamilton is actually not behind his teammate. In fact, nobody is behind their teammate at this point. We normally see the teammates working together, giving each other slipstreams, but you can see the 2 McLarens separated by Antonelli. Antonelli and Russell also separated by Piastri. Charles Leclerc not next to Lewis Hamilton at all. There's a Aston Martin between the 2 Ferrari cars. Tsunoda and Verstappen, bit too much of a gap between them, and Verstappen actually being followed by Bortoletto. Is Bortoletto's relationship with Verstappen off track? They are sim racing buddies. They play Call of Duty with one another quite a lot. It's Max Verstappen just doing Gabriel Bortoletto a favour here. Max Verstappen just in front of the Brazilian driver. But let's focus on Lando Norris as he is now on a flying lap going down towards turn 1, turn 2. Kimi Antonelli also through that first part of the lap. Lando Norris's first sector is a 26.574. Fastest of anybody so far, of course. But here comes Kimi Antonelli. Can he better it? No. 26.594 from Kimi Antonelli. So 0.02 of a second between the first 2 drivers through that part of the lap. Oscar Piastri, though, does go quicker than his teammate through the first sector. Here comes George Russell as well. Not quite good enough. Oscar Piastri, still the quickest man through the first sector of anybody so far. Lando Norris, though, entering the final sector. Antonelli can't quite match Lando Norris through the middle part of the lap. And Oscar Piastri's fastest first sector has just been taken by Charles Leclerc. Piastri, though, quickest of anybody through the middle sector. Piastri really clicking into gear now as we get into the final part of qualifying by the looks of things, finding those extra tenths of a second. It's a 1:19.4 from Lando Norris to get us underway. Kimi Antonelli feels like he's going to slot in just behind that with a 1:19.717 from the Italian. Oscar Piastri, though, quickest through the middle sector and quicker than his teammate by 3.5 tenths of a second. Piastri nearly into the 1:18s. It's a 1:19.0 from Piastri. Here comes George Russell, a tenth of a second off Oscar Piastri's lap time. He goes second fastest of anybody. Charles Leclerc then comes across the line to go quicker than Piastri. Charles Leclerc, 1:19 dead from Charles Leclerc. Goes to the top of the timing sheets by 0.5 tenth of a second. Lewis Hamilton was quicker than his teammate through the middle part of the lap. Can he do it? No. Lewis Hamilton slots into third fastest. That'll be P8 for him with that 5-place penalty. Here comes Max Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda, not in that order. Tsunoda comes across the line 7th fastest of anybody. 7 tenths of a second down is Yuki Tsunoda. Here comes Max Verstappen to get into the 1:18s. Verstappen snuck in there, wasn't quickest in the first sector, wasn't quickest in the second sector. Purple in the final sector from Verstappen, and purple overall, a 1:18.9. Max Verstappen, take a bow. Goodness me. There we go then. That is our first run in qualifying 3. Max Verstappen takes provisional pole. It is a Ferrari of Charles Leclerc in second spot. Piastri, our current championship leader, only third fastest at the moment. Then Hamilton, Russell, Bortoleto, Norris down in 7th place. He did decide to go out first, did Lando Norris. Got no slipstream from anybody else. Antonelli, Tsunoda, and Alonso down there as well. Gabriel Bortoleto with that slipstream from Max Verstappen. Almost just tried to hold on to the back of Max Verstappen as much as he possibly could, I'd imagine. Managed to go 6th fastest in that Stake Sauber car. Maybe that's the tactic. You just look at what Max Verstappen does right in front of you, and you try and copy it. That's Gabriel Bortoleto's idea of how to get better at qualifying. And it's absolutely working for him. 6th fastest overall in the Stake Sauber car. To run through again, Verstappen quickest at the moment. 5 minutes and 20 seconds still to run in this final part of qualifying. We are going to see another flying lap from these 10 drivers. P1 is tricky here because of the slipstream. Yeah, exactly. It's very tough to start from P1, to be honest. And it's also very tough to be the first driver out in qualifying. As we saw with Lando Norris, he wanted to get out early, wanted to make sure there wasn't any issues this time around. You know, Q2, he left it very, very late indeed. So maybe just wanted to get a lap under his belt in Q3 to get his grips back together with that McLaren car. But going out early, no slipstream, was 0.5 tenths of a second slower than Max Verstappen in that. And, you know, 0.4 tenths of a second slower than his teammate. So we're looking at that competitive gap between Lando Norris and Oscar Piastri. I mean, Piastri is kind of what I said before the stream started. If we do end up seeing Piastri sort of finishing 3rd or 4th, but Lando Norris then 6th or 7th, even though Piastri's not winning the race, and Piastri will want to win every single race he can, kind of better in the favor of Piastri, to be honest. Because it's all well and good, you know, maybe Lando Norris comes second to Piastri's first. But actually, I think having that competitive nature, having Verstappen, Leclerc, Hamilton being competitive, and there possibly being more than just one gap between the two McLaren cars, could really play into Oscar Piastri's favour. Lando Norris, 7th fastest at the moment. Here we go then. Piastri goes out first, followed by Norris. The Ferraris actually going out first, but the Ferraris letting some cars out in front of them. Gabriele Bortoletto's best qualifying 7th in Formula 1. He's 6th right now. And he's also just slotting in there. It's Yuki Tsunoda, the man who's gone out first of anybody. Tsunoda deciding that he doesn't want the slipstream, but instead wants the clean air in front of him. The Japanese driver, 9th fastest last time around. Then Leclerc and Hamilton. Piastri ahead of Norris is the interesting one. So Piastri will be giving Lando Norris a slipstream here. Piastri will be gaining his from Lewis Hamilton as long as he doesn't fall too far behind the Ferrari car in front of him. Then Verstappen, Alonso, Bortoletto. See, Alonso copying what Gabriele Bortoletto did. Go out behind Max Verstappen, copy what the Red Bull does. It's a little trio of cars we've got going through turn 1 and turn 2 all together there. Verstappen, Alonso, Bortoletto, all very close to one another as they come out onto their initial laps. Antonelli and Russell at the back of the pack then. Russell. Ooh. George Russell on the radio saying he thought that he wanted the medium tyre, but they've gone on the soft compound tyre. So George Russell not very happy with the choice of tyre compound. Maybe something that they will have to have a little look at Mercedes, especially if George Russell doesn't get the lap time that he is hoping for. Tsunoda and Leclerc, though, have come across the start-finish line. Let's keep an eye on their lap times. Leclerc 2nd fastest at the moment. Needs to improve by less than a 10th to take pole position from Max Verstappen. Yuki Tsunoda down in 9th place. Lewis Hamilton down in 4th at the moment. Piastri and Norris also come across the start-finish line to start their final flying laps. Yuki Tsunoda through the first sector. It's not amazing from Yuki Tsunoda. Neither is it amazing from Charles Leclerc, who's actually a little bit slower than he was last lap. So's Lewis Hamilton, a little bit slower than he was last lap through that first sector. Oscar Piastri across the first sector timing line also doesn't improve. Maybe the lap times aren't quite there for these cars. Or they're trying to do something a little bit different in the first sector. Second sector, no. Charles Leclerc still a 10th and a half down on Max Verstappen's time. Charles Leclerc not finding the lap time at all through the first and second sectors. Lewis Hamilton does improve through the second part of the lap as Piastri goes purple in the middle sector, but it's still a 10th and a half down on Max Verstappen's overall lap time through that middle part of the lap. Lando Norris also doesn't really go that much quicker through the middle part of the lap either. It's going to be a very weird end to qualifying as Charles Leclerc doesn't improve, stays where he is. Hamilton doesn't improve, stays where he is. Oscar Piastri then next across the start finish line does just about improve through that final sector to get himself up above Leclerc, but not quite there yet. And here comes Lando Norris to go quickest of anybody through the final part of the lap and quickest of anybody so far this weekend. Lando Norris, though, displaced by Max Verstappen. Verstappen also improved in the first and second sector to then snatch it away in the final part of the lap with a purple final sector. Here comes Kimi Antonelli to go 7th fastest of anybody, and George Russell lost a little bit of time in the middle part of the lap as George Russell coming around the final corner. Now he'll be the final car to cross the start finish line and doesn't improve. Stays 6th fastest, does George Russell. So it is Max Verstappen who takes pole position for the Monza Grand Prix. It's then 2 McLarens behind. Lando Norris in 2nd place, Oscar Piastri in 3rd. Then the 2 Ferraris, Charles Leclerc in 4th. Lewis Hamilton in 5th will drop down to 10th, remember. So Lewis Hamilton, effectively, you can just move Russell, Antonelli, Bortoletto, Alonso and Tsunoda all up one position and put Hamilton at the back of this pack. George Russell will start in 5th place with his teammate Kimi Antonelli in 6th place just behind. Gabriele Bortoletto will start side by side with Fernando Alonso in 7th and 8th place. And then finally, Yuki Tsunoda will start in 9th place with Lewis Hamilton in 10th. that is how it has played out. Just outside of that then, the 5 drivers that we lost in Q2, just in case you missed it: Ollie Behrman, Nico Hülkenberg, Carlos Sainz, Alex Albon and Esteban Ocon were the 5 drivers who weren't quick enough to get into the top 10 shootout. They fell out in 11th through to 15th place. And then Isaac Hadjar, Lance Stroll, Franco Colapinto, Pierre Gasly and Liam Lawson, the 5 drivers that dropped out in Q1. And this is our starting grid for tomorrow, with Lewis Hamilton dropping from 5th down to 10th. I don't know, though. Max Verstappen starting in 1st place, actually having to thread the needle through the 2 McLaren cars as they come into the pit lane to celebrate that pole position for Max Verstappen. And it's going to be very tight indeed, isn't it? Down towards turn 1, the slipstream is going to be very, very intense going down towards that first corner, and then also down towards turn 4 as well. We know it's competitive here in Monza. It's a long run down to those first couple of braking zones before you can get a little bit of breathing space through the middle sector. Thank you guys so much for watching, though. Appreciate you sticking around. Appreciate you choosing this stream over any other stream. And also, just very quickly, if you've got nothing to do now after qualifying, you want to listen to some more Formula 1 debate, hit the link in the description, that top link in the description. We are talking all things Formula 1 in a brand new podcast, the Crash Happy podcast. Go over there. Watch the hour and 20-minute podcast. It really does help us out. We need that watch time for the first few weeks. We're nearly at that 1,000 subscriber threshold. We're at 968. So 32 of you can go over there and get us over to 1,000 subscribers. That'd be absolutely amazing. It is me, Mr. V, Mr. Pulse. We've also got Dan No Skill and Formula Duck joining us. They're not part of the first podcast, but they are part of the channel. So click that link in the description down below. I will be live once again tomorrow for the Italian Grand Prix. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hit likes and subscribes on this channel as well. And I will see you very, very soon for the Italian Grand Prix.